Thank you for being here. Thanks for taking the time to click on my video and watch it. Let's talk about Eson in the last few minutes, the last few moments you have, not minutes. It's about a day. Not like the day and a half that you have left to pick up Eson in your Spotlight cache using keys or tokens before he's gone. So let's talk about the card, review him with my experience of playing the card, and the data that we have about him from on top. Now, again, thank you to everyone who subscribed and helped me getting closer and closer to my goal of reaching 1,000 subscribers before my first child turns one currently my only child, on April 1st. April Fool's Day, believe it or not, is my daughter's first birthday. So we have a goal to reach 1,000 subscribers by then. And we are getting so close because of people like you who are kind enough to subscribe. So if you are one of those people who did subscribe, it really means a lot to me. Thank you. If you're not, I'd appreciate it if you'd consider it. But let's talk about Eson and get into the card here, starting first with the data we have from Untapped. Again, keep in mind whenever you hear data about a card from Untapped, from any deck tracker, that is an extremely small portion of the meta. Primarily people who play on PC. I know Untapped now has some mobile data tracking, but that is different. Not everyone uses a deck tracker. Very, very few people, in comparison to how many people play Marvel Snap, use a deck tracker. So this data is not a perfect encapsulation of the meta. However, it is data worth looking at, as Eson has a popularity rate of 25.3%. So according to Untapped, a quarter of the meta is playing Eson. So a card that people are particularly interested in and excited about. And I think that that's true as well. I didn't look at Agamotto's. I'm sure if we did, his would be even higher. Seems like so many people are interested in that card. And I think Eson has been a card that has been surprising to people that they're also interested in. I know that it was a card that was roller coastered because the data mine version of him we were extremely interested in. He ended up being a lot different. But with how much of the meta, and I'm sure that if we had the data from Marvel Snap, from Second Dinner, and all players, with how many players of the meta, like the complete meta, every player in Marvel Snap, with how many people play Erisham, and how well Eson goes in Erisham, I'm sure this number would be even higher. His win rate is at 59.8%, so not a super high win rate, but his cube rate is okay at more than half of a cube. So data-wise, it's strong. It's a good card. What is my experience with the card? What would I rate it? Well, I did end up spending both tokens and keys on it so that I could get the variant. It was nice. I only had to spend one key. I spent my 6,000 tokens on the card and then one key to get the variant. It was like the perfect pull. I felt super lucky. Don't worry, my RNG luck I was made up for in tons of bad luck, which we will talk about in this video. But what do I rate it? This little squiggly line here is that preemptively, as we were doing my keys decision and looking forward, I rated this card a 3-star card. I'm currently giving it a 3-star card, and the potential for it, I'm giving 3. I'm almost giving it 4, but I'm holding back from giving it 4. One, because I feel like I just need to tamper my ratings of cards. I feel like I give so many cards 4, but also being honest about Eson. Eson fits into one of my favorite archetypes, hand generation, Victoria hand decks. Super interesting card, really, really fun card, and I think actually quite a unique card. And when I get to play Eson, I'm excited. It's a card that I'm enjoying. When I have the ramp that happens, or even if it's just turn 6, and I get an Eson's in hand, and I have a card that he's going to pull, it's just exciting to play the card. However, the reason that the rating is only 3 is that the conditions in which Eson has to be playable are very specific. One, you have to be able to hopefully ramp him out early. I mean, sure, you can play him on 6, but that's not great. However, it's also not horrible. Like, keep that in mind. That's not awful. You're playing a 6/10. Like, that's like playing a Hulk, a red Hulk on turn 6, and he's going to pull something down. So, not a horrible turn 6 play, but to get more benefit of him, you want to ramp him out early. But in addition to ramping him out early, you also need cards generated in your hand for Eson, not necessarily in your hand, cards generated in some capacity for Eson to pull down. So that could be cards generated in your hand by shield cards, those types of cards, Valentina, Iron Patriot, whatever it is, or it could be Erisham created cards. Those count as well. So those two conditions of them, both of them being met, are rare, because even in an Erisham deck where the ramp is automatic, you're also less likely to draw Eson because of the way that an Erisham deck works. So you don't always get his potential. You don't always get the best payoff with Eson. He's inconsistent. Sometimes he pulls down the Destroyer and totally screws your whole board from a Nick Fury, which happened to me multiple times. So it's not amazing. Like, it's not incredible. However, I do think it is a good addition into his archetype. It's a card that I particularly am excited to have, but that's because it matches one of my favorite decks to play. I would not recommend this card to everyone because, like, even if someone who loves Airshim, yes, actually, like, if you're a huge Airshim gamer, this card makes a ton of sense. But even then, if you're at a lower collection level and you're like, oh, I'm trying to decide between two big cards. I'm trying to decide between, let's say you're an Airshim player, and you're trying to, even something as specific as Airshim that loves and feasts with Eson, and you're saying, I'm trying to decide between Doom 2099 and Eson. Doom 2099, always. I'm trying to decide between Galacta and Eson. I'm trying to decide between Iron Patriot and Eson, Sam Wilson and Eson. Obviously, those are very strong cards that I just listed, but even in an Airshim deck where he fits his best, I think I would still have other cards over him if I was in that if I were in that collection level. He is a good card. Don't take this the wrong way. He's 3 stars. 3 stars is above average. He's just not quite 4 for me because of the inconsistency of him. However, I did have a ton of fun with him, and it's one of my new favorite cards. I'm just trying to be honest in my rating. So let's move on and talk about the decks. If you did pick up Eson, there are no weekend missions for him, so these decks, I'm not going to mention that they'll help you because they accidentally rolled out the mission as win with Khonshu starting in your deck, and he's not released until the final week of the season, which can't come fast enough. I'm so excited for that week. So they're just giving everyone the 200 collector tokens. So that's sweet. Even if you didn't pick up Eson, you're going to get 200 collector's tokens, which is really nice. But let's look at the decks based on the data and what's performing, and then I will also share my decks. So the first deck, these are sorted by win rate over the past 7 days. The first deck, surprise, surprise, is an Airshim deck. It is the Doom 2099 Airshim deck. It's a strong deck. It's the version, it seems like Airshim has not moved on from Doom, Legion, Alioth, and Doom 2099. It doesn't really seem like there's a lot of innovation in the Airshim space outside of this, which is kind of a bummer because this is, in my opinion, annoying to play against because it is kind of strong and so straightforward and hard to beat. Anyway, it's performing well, 61% win rate. I think the cube rate also isn't the strongest cube rate. It is a strong cube rate, but I think it's just a deck that people see that they're getting out of quickly, especially as the ladder is such a grind for people. Moving on to the next one, it is also an Airshim deck, but it includes Agamotto. It's the same thing, Doom 2099, Dr. Doom, Airshim, Eson, Agamotto, but we have Agamotto and Nick Fury in here instead of Galacta and Legion, right? So again, not a lot of innovation. It's just adjusted a little bit for a little more Eson action with Nick Fury and Agamotto included. You can see that the win rate is about the same, just the cube rate is a bit lower. The next deck we have, surprisingly, is not an Airshim deck. It is listed as the number 3 deck. However, this is technically the number 7 deck. You have to scroll through 6 Airshim decks before you get to anything that does not include Airshim, and that's ranking by win rate from the rank 80 and above. However, we have a Red Wing deck, which is kind of cool. I called it Ramp Wing because there's a little bit of ramp here with cards like Electro, but really, really cool deck. Interesting, though, that there's only 2 cards that are going to generate cards for Eson, and that's Iron Patriot and Valentina. However, both of those cards generate really good cards. They're either Valentina is always a 6 cost, and Iron Patriot is either a 4, 5, or 6 cost. Interesting to me that it's just a ramp deck. Like, its win rate is fine. But I think it's like, I haven't played this deck. I would imagine, though, that it's because more of just the ramping than anything else. However, cool to include Red Wing. Moving on to the next deck. This one I think is actually cool. I like to see people innovating. I'm not sure. I could be wrong. I just saw that Tucker did a video on this. I don't know if it was his deck that he came up with, but really cool Black Knight deck. I thought the idea of Agamotto, of discarding Agamotto with the Black Knight would be really cool because you obviously Ghost Rider can bring him back, but also the spell, I'm going to call it Images of Icon, but that's not. Temporal Manipulation, the one that's 1 cost and it pulls Agamotto into your hand and gives him +3 power. If he has been discarded or destroyed and then you play that, he comes back into your hand, which is really cool. So cool deck. I love Victoria Hand. I love Black Knight. Cool combination of the two. I will say I tried this deck. Got absolutely destroyed as much as I tried it. It just, the cards would not align for me. It was actually quite horrible, which is interesting because I play a Black Knight Agatha deck, which is very similar to this, similar idea quite frequently. And the amount of times that I could not get something to discard the right way with this deck, even though I can pretty consistently with Agatha, is interesting. I mean, granted, Agatha is starting in your hand, but still, this I saw this, I thought, wow, I love Eson, I love Victoria Hand, I love Black Knight decks. What a cool combination of things that I love, and it just didn't work for me, which is so disappointing. But really cool deck here. As you can see, its win rate is a little bit lower, just barely above 50%. Probably people experiencing a similar thing to me. The next one we have is a ramp deck that includes Agamotto, right? So this previous ramp deck, ignore Red Wing, right? Obviously, Red Wing is part of it, but it's also just kind of a general ramp deck with big cards like Infinite and Magneto. This one is specifically an Agamotto deck that is also ramp, and you've got two ramp options. I was thinking of a different version that also has Electro. So you'd have Electro Wave and Luna Snow. This one has three, or only two. Win rate, again, not super high. Pretty straightforward deck. The next one we have is a Wiccan deck. Again, the win rate is a little bit lower. Victoria Hand Wiccan deck, which is one of my favorite decks ever, but a little bit different with cards like White Queen and Copycat, Magneto, of course, but also Gorgon as just a good tech piece currently. Really, really strong tech card right now. So, yeah, interesting deck. Just barely win rate, pretty low cube rate, but people are winning with it. This deck is the one that has the most games. Like I mentioned, this was one of those Airshim decks that I had to scroll past, so I did not include it, even though as you can see, its win rate would include higher. This is one that just had the raw most games, as you can see. This is a game that if someone was like, hey, I'm struggling on the ladder, what should I play? I would probably port them towards something like this. I know it's kind of expensive, but you can make a version of it without Goliath or without Legion. One, Airshim is just pretty strong. Two, you have really great tech cards, again, with Gorgon, Mobius, Shang-Chi, and, of course, Goliath, if you've got him. Fantastic counter, full of tech cards. Goliath, pretty huge for going against Hela. The amount of Hela decks I've gone against is just very insufferable. But, yeah, strong deck. People are playing it for good reason. So moving on to my decks, as you can see with his negative cube rate, that is in the last 7 days only as well. Negative 20 cubes. Like I mentioned, the RNG was on my side when it came to getting Eson, the Eson variant that I really wanted. The RNG has not been on my side when it comes to playing Eson. Oh my goodness, this has been so frustrating to play. What's really interesting is that I took this deck that I mentioned in my decks that took me to Infinite video. This is the exact same deck. All I did was take out Onslaught and put in Eson, which I think was a very obvious switch. It makes a lot of sense in a Wiccan deck, and in a Victoria Hand Wiccan deck to have Eson, right? I had a big 6 cost that was facilitating the deck. I just switched it for Eson, which does the same thing. And I have just been countered and teched against and just horrible hand draw. The RNG has not, I cannot express enough how tilted I got, which is really, it's rare for me to get that tilted by Marvel Snap, by games in general, but Marvel Snap specifically. I was fuming, trying to record a video on Eson. I was having such a great time with Eson. I loved him. I'm pretty sure that these 13 games I won were all from games I was playing just on my own before I started recording the video. These 16 that I lost are probably all 16 that I was playing while I was trying to record the video. I'm not joking. I was countered so hard. But this deck obviously is very, very much focused on Wiccan and Victoria Hand. I think I would adjust it a little bit if I wanted it to be better. So including, instead of Frigga and Moonstone, including cards like Wave or Luna Snow, getting rid of Quinjet probably, and Speed, even though I think Speed and Wiccan is just an obvious inclusion. Like, if you're going to be spending all your energy, why not include Speed? He's a strong card, especially with Moonstone. But if I'm taking Moonstone out, I'd probably take Speed out. So anyway, this could be reworked to be stronger and be better. But it was fun to play until I started to record a video, and then the game hated me. Like, truly, truly hated me. It was so frustrating. Anyway, fun deck that I did not end up making a video about because I was so tilted I couldn't even handle it. So some other decks that I'll just showcase, the other two. This is my Airshim deck, as you can see, also a negative cube rate. I tried to switch to this Eson deck, even though I have a positive win rate. Just losing cubes. I also don't retreat when I'm recording videos, even on the ladder, so that kind of never helps with the cube rate. But this is the Eson or my Airshim list that I tried. Playing it, it was strong. It's a version of the Doom 2099 package. I don't have Legion or Eliath, so I will say that this deck is just strong, but it really had nothing to do with Eson. It's just a good Doom 2099 Airshim deck that's strong. And then lastly, this is the ramp deck that, as you can see, I played a legitimate 1 games with, and I just ripped this off from somebody else. Like, this is, I don't know where I got this. It's not mine. I didn't come up with it. It's cool. It's fun. Haven't played it very much, so don't have a lot to say about it. But there's 10 decks for you that you can play with Eson. I think, obviously, the home for him is in Airshim, without a doubt. He's very, very strong there. Just a fantastic auto-include with Airshim decks from now on. I think Victoria Hand, of course, is the other place where he makes a lot of sense, particularly Victoria Hand. Wiccan decks, which have been going together for a long time, don't do this version of it. I think there was a Wiccan one earlier. I thought there was. Oh, yeah, right here. A Wiccan one, right? Play this one. This one has a positive cube rate and a higher win rate. I would probably take Agamotto, but I think Agamotto is one of the worst cards that you can include in Wiccan because it dilutes your draws, and in a Wiccan deck, you need good draws. So anyway, those are the decks. So with all that being said, all those complaints and frustrations I had with Eson, is he worth it? I think that the game really was countering me. That's a topic for another video. It was a very unique experience in Marvel Snap, that one of the reasons I was so tilted is that it felt like I was fighting against the game. It was a horrible experience. So moving that aside, even with that negative experience, do I think that Eson is worth it? And I would say this is a tough question to answer every time, but especially for this card, because if you're at a higher collection level, you've got the other cards that you want. Like I'm still missing, I think, like 10 or 15 cards, but there's not, like, I don't have Eliath, I don't have Legion, but those aren't cards that I'm super interested in. I don't like playing those types of cards, which is like, anyone can play what they want, just my personal play style. I don't like playing those types of cards. So I'm not like hungering for those other cards. I'm in a position where I don't have like an older card on my wish list. The cards that are on my wish list are the new cards, if that makes sense. So all of that being said, is Eson worth it? And I would say if you like Airshim or Wiccan Victoria Hand decks, he makes a lot of sense. Even if you just like Victoria Hand decks, you could play Wiccan or Eson on 6 in a Victoria Hand deck, and he would create value for you. Like playing a 6/10 is not a bad thing. He's going to pull more power to the board, specifically power that's going to be buffed by your Victoria Hand. I think he makes a lot of sense in those decks. So if you like playing those decks, and there's not a card that's stronger, that's higher on your wish list, I think he is worth the tokens or keys. Tough to answer that question, tough to recommend, because I think he's a little bit more unique than like an auto-include. He's not like, I don't know, as great as I think Khonshu is going to be, or Firehair is going to be, like, where there's like, yes, obviously get that in your collection ASAP. Eson is a great card, and if you like these decks, he makes a lot of sense in him, but he's not an immediate auto-include, a collection include, I guess, if there's other cards that are higher out there for you, if that makes sense. Anyway, I'm kind of losing my voice, so thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing, whether you're a new subscriber or a long-time subscriber. Every single one of them means the world to me, and it means a lot that so many people on the internet would respond to a request to subscribe and help me reach a goal. Like, thank you. I genuinely can't do it without you. So I appreciate every single one of you. And I hope that your next game in Marvel Snap is a lot better than all the games that I had with Eson. Anyway, thanks for being here. I appreciate you.